Good Saturday morning to you. Welcome in. It's the Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank, presented by Sewer Ninjas, right here on 97.3 The Game. Just want to start it off this way. Jeff, I think you will concur Tim Scott owes us 30 seconds. That's all we're going to say.
Absolutely.
We'll leave it at that. Sewer Ninjas is dedicated to solving your home sewer issues with the latest no-dig sewer repair technology. To minimize cost and disruption, they can repair your sewer lateral line with minimal intrusion, saving you thousands. When you need help, turn to the drain and sewer experts for Milwaukee and the surrounding communities. Find out more at sewerninjas.com. Our thanks as well to Waterstone Bank, established in 1921, offering a full suite of personal and business banking products. Come for the outstanding customer service. Stay for everything else. Bank easier at Waterstone Bank. See everything they have to offer at WSBOnline.com. The Polish Pipe Bomb on the ones and twos sits across from me. I'm Don Wachillis. As always, we appreciate you joining us on and back at our normal Saturday morning time slot, shall we say.
Yeah.
The professor is professing, so he has the day off. So safe travels, professor, with the crew as you head up north. He's got a group. They're beginning their senior capstone. They've got some work cut out for them today. So if they happen to be listening, if you thought this was just going to be a joyride to the Northwoods, think again. I think our friend has quite the day planned for you as you begin that last semester there at Concordia.
What's a capstone? Is that like a master's thesis?
No, the capstone essentially is that last class you take your senior year, but it's more practical. It's not the book, the theory. It's like getting out and actually, experiencing what life is like in the air quote real world. So Dan is very good, extremely good at giving these kids opportunities before they walk out of school to see what, doing all of that book work was about and how you now put it into, as I always say, real world practical type situations. So that's what they're heading to do.
So most students now take 5 years to graduate college. So that equals what, 10 semesters?
Yep.
And then they only give one semester to teach you how to make.
Well, no. There's other things that are woven in throughout your journey.
Okay.
We'll call it your journey, right? There's other things, but this is like the final. It's the bride and groom on top of the wedding cake.
Uh-huh.
You've built the layers of the wedding cake, and now you throw that on top. This is kind of what it is. Daniel's probably just getting ready to drive off the road. Like, you guys aren't explaining this well at all, but he's not here, so we're doing the best we can.
We lost the brains of the show, so we're doing the best we can, Professor.
Over the next 2 hours, we've got a bunch to get to. Coming up around 8:25. Ben Steele from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel will join us as Marquette gets ready to take on Xavier today at Fiserv Forum. That's a 1 o'clock tip. And then at around 9:25 in hour number 2, we call him our coach, Bart Lundy, the head coach of the UWM Panthers, is slated to join us as they got a nice win last night. They'll be back at it again tomorrow afternoon, so we'll get a chance to catch up with head coach Bart Lundy coming up again at around 9:25. We're going to start the preview process of the College Football National Championship. The money train will roll in around 8:45. Pipe Bomb, the money train, he went up north.
Uh-huh.
He's doing like a Aaron Rodgers like retreat. He's so invested in making sure we get the right pick for Monday. It's almost, I won't call it a dark retreat.
Okay.
Because I think there are other things involved, like bending of the elbow, but
you can still see some light through the scotch.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's the proper pour with a couple of ice cubes. So he's in the midst of a retreat in which he will give us the big pick after another successful year of college football on his side of things and giving us picks throughout the year. We'll get to headlines, Badger basketball, just a bunch to get to. But of course, we start this week with some sad news, obviously, in the passing of Bob Uecker. And I know kudos to the station here at 97.3, the game that essentially just had a pivot on Thursday morning when the news broke, and everybody here from morning to late into the evening, did such a good job in memorializing one of our sounds of summer. Jeff, you and I were talking before we came on the air. It's going to be strange that for the first time that I can remember in my lifetime, when we get to April, oh, heck, we can go into March, really, when we talk about spring training, that we're not going to hear that voice. And that voice has just, again, been the sounds of our summer, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah, it has. And, it's strange that the passing of Bob brings out I think it brings out positivity in everybody.
Yeah.
For as sad as it is, and how much Brewers baseball is going to sound different for the rest of eternity here. I think it makes everybody nicer. Like, even now, I am going to say something nice about Mike Feller, who has a show weekdays here. I think his last name's Feller. From noon to 3. He did a phenomenal job on Thursday, his entire show. And you can just hear, he's obviously 100 years older than I am, but you could hear the emotion in his voice, and the way that he covered it was great. But he made a great point that, he's spent more time with Bob Uecker than he has, heard his voice more than his parents, than his wife, than, his best friends. Yeah. And that's true. When you get 3 hours a day, day in, day out, 162, I haven't talked to my wife that much in 20 years, And so, it's going to sound different, and it really sucks. And, just the outpouring of love and support, makes you feel happy, and getting to listen to the old clips and all that brings back all the memories. So it's sad, but I think we can take something out of it too.
Absolutely. And because of the number of memories that we have, I started putting together some clips, and I'm sure everybody went through the same thing here at the station, because we're going to play some clips in the outro, and people may say, well, what did Uke have to do with college sports? If you look, and this was something I didn't know until Thursday, actually, is that one of his first gigs was calling UWM basketball and baseball back in the very, very early 70s. And so to go back and to listen to some of those memorable calls that we grew up on, one of the first things I think that hit me in listening to some of that was envisioning, for instance, my dad sitting in the backyard with his little transistor radio and his bottle of Blatz, listening to Uecker on a Tuesday night, whatever the case may be, as the Brewers were taking on whoever at that point in the American League. It's just, he's so intertwined, I guess, in our lives as sport fans here in the city of Milwaukee. And then I know I sent you those clips of the Admiral commercials from back in the 80s when they moved over to the Bradley Center. I had completely forgot about those, and kudos to whoever posted on social media, because I didn't get a chance or the wherewithal to write who it was down. But to see those clips again, and to see his relationship with Jane and Lloyd Pettit, because they were all Milwaukee all the time. They were 414 true and blue and the whole 9 yards. So that was kind of cool. So we'll play some outros. It got to the point, Jeff, I just started grabbing like 5 of them to use as outros. Like, I couldn't decide. I don't want to say wasting too much time, but essentially that's what it was. Like, oh, I really like this one. No, what about this one? What about this one? And so I finally was like, okay, I'm just going to grab 5. I'm going to send them to you, and we'll use those as outros as we make our way to break. Another legend within the baseball community here in Milwaukee, Felix Mantilla, passed away, and Felix has been connected with Journey House, and Journey House taking over the Felix Mantilla Little League about 10, 12 years ago, whatever the case may be. And what Felix Mantilla meant to many, many, many kids in our community, as far as providing an unbelievable experience from a baseball perspective with his Little League. So we want to let people know that if you would love to attend his memorial service, it will be held tomorrow at Journey House. The doors will open at 10:30. The ceremony will begin at 11, and then there will be fellowship that will take place at 1 o'clock. Journey House is located at 2110 West Scott Street in Milwaukee. So really, two guys in the world of baseball who have impacted our community tremendously, unfortunately, have left us. And again, want to remind people that with our connection, especially with Journey House, that the Felix Mantilla Celebration of Life will be held tomorrow at Journey House. Again, the doors opening at 10:30 with the service beginning at 11 a.m. All right, let's get to some college football because we have made it. We have gotten to the national championship, Jeffrey. We've gone through all of the regular season. We've gone through all of the heartache of Badger football this season. We've gotten into the playoffs. Oh, by the way, hey, Paul Feinbaum, did you watch the wild card playoffs last week? Let's see, was Denver not worthy of making the playoffs? I mean, I just, you want to live in a world of hot takes, own it and let it ride, because the way you came after Indiana, again, I'm not an Indiana fan. I always feel like I'm defending Indiana, and I'm really not. I just thought the term fraud was so out of bounds. Just it wasn't necessary. Yes, the first games were in many cases awful. We'll just say it that way. But I'm looking at the wild card games last week for the NFL.
Same
Denver,
thing.
Minnesota, were they frauds? Oh, they had great seasons. They just decided to, shard themselves at the wrong time. And so, that's the way it goes, especially in these opening rounds. And the funny thing is, I got to get off this Indiana kick because I really do feel like I'm defending the guys with the red and white striped pants when they walk on the basketball court. Oh, they're so bad, that clown outfit that they wear. But when you look at Indiana's schedule, who's the two teams they lost to? Notre Dame, Ohio State. Who's playing for the national championship? Notre Dame, Ohio State. So again, to me, Jeff, it was just the idea of calling him a fraud that really just hit a nerve.
Well, and, with Feinbaum, obviously everything is through, SEC colored glasses and all that, on T's and Q's, the show that follows this one. Trey called Oregon frauds because they got blown out by Ohio State. Excuse me? They didn't, they beat Ohio State in the regular season. So, a lot of hot takes getting flown around. You would think that we're getting away from that now and actually getting back to real sports talk that matters instead of, I'm going to say the most outrageous things for likes and clicks on Twitter. I thought we were past that, but I guess we're not.
And the thing is that we get this Notre Dame, Ohio State championship matchup coming up again Monday night, in that you've got two teams that if we didn't have this current playoff formula would not have made it, right? Because the loss to Notre Dame's loss to Northern Illinois would have been so detrimental. Ouch. They would have never rebounded.
Right.
Ohio State's loss to Michigan at the end of the year would have been so detrimental. They wouldn't have had the opportunity to make that Final Four. And yet you look at Notre Dame that's now in the midst of a 13-game winning streak. You look at an Ohio State team that, listen, I am completely surprised by them, Jeff, because that was a team that I thought had their soul taken from them when they played Michigan. The job Ryan Day, for as much as people, including myself, have been critical of over the years, the job he's done to just invert that loss into kind of a championship cry, my goodness. I mean, Ryan Day, I think, has really elevated himself back up from a stature perspective than where he was looking just dismayed, standing in the end zone, not knowing what was going on in that loss to Michigan.
While his team is throwing punches on the field and people are getting maced. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Ryan Day is the beneficiary of more games instead of less. If their season would have ended with, the Cheez-It Bowl instead of the college football playoffs, that would have been a very, very sad look for him.
Okay. Can we use another one? I mean, the Cheez-It Bowl outside of the playoffs, it's not the Cheez-It. I'm sorry. It's the it's the Pop-Tart Bowl. Oh,
Pop-Tart. I didn't disparage the king
Jeff,
of all bowl games there.
Yeah, I'm just going to have some more caffeine. Okay, go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry.
So he needed the more games to help turn down the heat on his hot seat and all that kind of stuff. And so far, he's obviously done very well here in the playoffs this season, but he needs to get it done.
Yeah.
You've got the best team that money can buy because they've spent more money than any other team in minor league football. And so they basically kind of bought their way in here. And then, what's interesting to me, you have a complete obvious lean when you got Herb Street up in the booth and all that stuff trying to talk about Ohio State. And, oh, well, guys, they paid their own guys to stay. It's not like they brought in all these expensive free agents. Shut up. You dropped 20 mil dough on here. Yeah. So for me, I'm rooting for them because, they're not Notre Dame University. And so that's why I'm going to root for that team. But it makes me feel dirty inside because it's like cheering for the Dodgers or the Yankees, a team that can stack the deck in their favor just by the amount of money they can spend.
And we're getting kind of sidetracked, which is absolutely fine because what you just said there, Jeff, I think is an important element of where college athletics is going. In baseball, we're always fussing about what? The Dodgers, the Yankees, able to buy teams, able to stack the deck.
No salary
we saw
cap.
it again this week with the Dodgers in their free agency acquisitions. College football is going to end up being the same thing unless they figure out, as I always say, put parameters around it, because the Ohio States of the world, the Georgias of the world, the Alabamas of the world have unlimited resources right now to buy teams, much like Ohio State has done this year. Ohio State has spent $20 million on acquiescing. I just made up a word. Somebody write that down. I just made up a word of acquiring players to get them to where they are. Wisconsin's not spending $20 million on players. No. Illinois is not spending $20 million on players. I mean, you can go right down the line. So you're going to get a have and have not type system unless you put some sort of, we'll call it salary cap measure in this day and age on it. Otherwise, we're going to have baseball. Yeah. We're just going to have baseball where every once in a blue moon, somebody squeaks by and Major League Baseball can pound their chest and see everybody has a chance. Everybody can make it. Everybody has the opportunity to win, but time in and time out, it's the teams that can spend the most money. And right now, Ohio State is an example of that. The game coming up on Monday, Jeff, is, in my mind, as simple as possible. Now, granted, from a coordinator perspective, it's much more chess while I'm playing checkers, but I don't think it's that complicated because Ohio State starts essentially with the pass. You know how a lot of teams are saying, we're going to establish the run. Right. We're going to make sure everybody slides down. We'll get 8 in the box, and then we'll hit them over the top, and we'll get our explosive plays that way. Ohio State's inverted. Ohio State wants to hit you with the big plays early so that you have to back up and play, whether you're playing cover 2 or you're playing, nickel defense the entire time in order then to open up the run. So in my mind, if Notre Dame can muck it up, muddy it up, whatever phrase that you want to use, that it sits inside that cranium, that's what they're going to need to do, much like Michigan did, because what Michigan did was take the over-the-top stuff out of the way. Then they were able to control the line of scrimmage, and we saw what happened with Ohio State. They just crumbled. They couldn't do what they normally did offensively, and they had no way of countering it. That's what Notre Dame has to do. But again, I can say it. I'm playing checkers. They're playing chess. It's much easier for me on a microphone to say, here, guys, you just got to control the line of scrimmage. Don't give up any explosive plays, and you'll win the game. Good. All right, go play the game. But really, to me, that's what it boils down to is, again, what's going to happen in the trenches. Can Notre Dame match the physicality of Ohio State? And can they, on the back end, limit, let's say, the explosive plays to maybe 1?
Well, and that's the thing, and that's such a great point because Ohio State got completely out-physicaled by Michigan. But since the playoffs have started here, Ohio State has been the big bully up front on both sides of the ball. So, and I do like the way that Ryan Day in Ohio State runs it. I'm a big fan. Use the pass to open up the run, because not only that, but you're also sitting there, and with the great receivers that Ohio State has had for so long,
Oh my gosh,
you can, throw it deep, and not only are you, moving the defense back, that opens up the run, but chances are you hit a couple of those. Now you're playing from ahead. And it doesn't matter if it's early in the first quarter, if you score a touchdown on your first drive, it still makes the opposing team pucker up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Way of saying it, yeah.
And so you sit there, and if you can score early, then they've got it in the back of their minds. Oh no, this might be the day that not Notre Dame University can score at will. And now all of a sudden we have to be perfect. We have to sit, and then they start thinking too much. And that's when mistakes happen.
Yeah. And again, we've seen other teams. There are a lot of teams that this happens to, where once you're thrown out of your game plan, so to speak, where the game plan you've worked on in practice, that you thought this was going to be the path to success, when it's not working. We've seen not only Ohio State against Michigan, but you see a number of teams throughout the college season that suddenly implode, for lack of a better way of saying
Alabama and Vanderbilt.
Right. And so if you can get them out of sequence, if you can get them a little disorientated, it'll be interesting to see, because we have in the past watched an Ohio State team crumble. We've also, though, seen it with Notre Dame. If you go back to that Northern Illinois game, when they got punched in the mouth by Northern Illinois and didn't know how to respond and couldn't get their mojo back, and that became that one loss where we were like, holy cow, this is catastrophic for this team. But now they've gone on a 13-game winning streak and been able to beat some good teams down the back end of their regular season schedule in the playoffs. And let's hope that what we get is a national championship game that is worthy of what this season was, because this season was incredibly interesting, even though, again, for the Badgers, it was disappointing, but the season as a whole was incredibly interesting. And that you're hoping that, the icing, the bride and groom on top of the cake, as I said before, are worthy, and that we get a great game on Monday night. And, I've got two teams that I'm struggling to root for, so I'm just hoping for a good game that comes down to the wire.
Yeah, and I think that's what most of us are. It's weird because, when the NCAA tournament goes on, once Wisconsin, if they get knocked out, then I start rooting for other Big Ten teams.
Sure.
But I was never like that in football, obviously Packer fan and all that. There's no way in hell I'm ever rooting for the Vikings. So, but, and then I was surprised this year because it kind of transformed the same into football, where,
right.
I was rooting for Indiana. I'm rooting for not Notre Dame University to win the whole thing here. I even rooted for that other team from Pennsylvania, so it's a little strange. I'm trying to get used to my new surroundings here. I think the first half is going to be really close in this game.
Yeah.
And then I think that not Notre Dame University has a chance to pull away in the second half, but we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, both of these teams have failed under the brightest of lights for a long time now,
right?
For many years.
Right.
And so something's got to give.
Something's got to give. There it is. That's the title of Monday night's game. Something's got to give. Pipe bomb, you're at it again. Bless you. Bless you. All right, let's get to a break. As we said, as we go into our breaks today, we're going to play some clips with regards to Bob Uecker. The first one comes from his Hall of Fame speech, a little excerpt that shows, I guess we can say, the comedic side of one Mr. Bob Uecker. Let's get to a break. On the other side, we'll bring in Ben Steele and talk about this Marquette-Xavier matchup coming up today at 1 o'clock. You've got the Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank, presented by Sewer Ninjas, right here, 97.3 The Game.
I did not have a lot of ability as a kid. My dad wanted me to have everything that everybody else had. I think the first thing that he ever bought me was a football. And I was very young, and he didn't know a lot about it. He came from the old country. And, we tried to pass it and throw it and kick it, and we couldn't do it, and it was very discouraging for him and for me. And we almost quit. And And finally, we had a nice enough neighbor came over and put some air in it. And what a difference.
Newspaper clippings fill the coffee shops.
Ready for a win? Well, it's your year. At Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee, you can win over $2,000 in free play every month all year long. Just play your favorite games and you might take the stage in the It's Your Year game show. 25 winners each Thursday. There's $300,000 in cash and prizes up for grabs this January. Yeah, we think it's your year. More info at paysbig.com. Must be 21 years old to play.
Fever, cough, congestion. Just one dose of Mucinex Fast Max All-in-One relieves up to 9 cold and flu symptoms, helping you get on with your day. It's comeback season. Use as directed.
Old Spice Swagger Body Wash will make you the MVP of freshness and confidence. With its irresistible scent, it will transform your shower experience, leaving you feeling fresh on and off the field. Pair it with Old Spice Swagger Deodorant, the #1 aluminum-free brand that keeps you feeling like a Super Bowl champion 24/7 when used daily. But don't wait. This dynamic duo is available at Costco for a limited time only. Old Spice, official deodorant partner of the NFL and Super Bowl 59, where freshness meets football greatness.
Shop can't miss deals going on now during Pro Savings Days at Lowe's. For a limited time, get a free adjustable stand when you buy a DeWalt 12-inch miter saw. That's a $229 value. Plus, save $680 on a Midea 4-piece kitchen appliance suite. Now just $17.96. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 1/13 through 1/24. Cannot be combined with additional discounts while supplies last. See store or Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone,
So what if I need a new one?
We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone,
And what about my old battery?
We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
The Fox 6 weather experts are presented by AdventNose.com.
Decreasing clouds this Saturday with temperatures falling will mainly be in the lower 20s by the afternoon, but feeling like the single digits. Temperatures drop tonight to near zero with a cold weather advisory issued Sunday through Monday of next week. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Lisa Michaels.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Business owners can now keep in touch with up to 200 staff members at one time. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off and free shipping.
Hey, it's Bobby Bones. Join me and former NFL quarterback Matt Castle for our new podcast, Lots to Say with Bobby Bones and Matt Castle. Between us, we have over 17,500 passing yards, multiple New York Times bestsellers, and 1 Mirror Ball trophy from Dancing with the Stars. So where else are you going to find a show with that much athleticism and football insight? Listen to Lots to Say with Bobby Bones and Matt Castle on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart.
Open your free iHeart app and search Lots to Say with Bobby Bones and Matt Castle and start listening.
Zabe and Butch in the morning.
Join us Monday, recap the divisional round of the NFL, plus bonus Matt Miller. We'll see you bright and early at 6.
Zabe and Butch, weekday mornings after 6 on the Game.
Man, I got a packed house yelling, bring them out, bring them out. I'm a hot girl yelling, bring them out, bring them out. All the dope boys yelling, bring them out, bring them out. Front the back gay yelling, bring them out, bring them out. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. You want to be?
Welcome back in Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank, presented by Sewer Ninjas, right here on 97.3 The Game. In a moment, we're going to get to talk to Ben Steele and get ready for this Marquette Xavier game coming up at 1 o'clock today. Remember, coming up 9:30 today, we'll talk with Bart Lundy, the head coach for the UWM Panthers after a nice win last night, getting ready to get back at it tomorrow afternoon. We want to remind you again that Waterstone Bank is proud to partner with Journey House. For over 55 years, Journey House has been committed to working with low-income youth and adults to prepare them for and with the skills necessary to move out of poverty. Go to journeyhouse.org for more information. Journey House and Waterstone Bank, helping to make our community a better place. let's jump to the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line and bring in our Marquette Golden Eagle insider from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. It's Ben Steele. Benjamin, good morning. Thanks for jumping on as always.
What's up, guys? Been a while. Good to hear from you again.
Yeah, it is great to hear from you, and it's great that you once again are having the ability to cover a team that is absolutely on a roll, sitting at number 7 in the AP Top 25, 6-0 in the Big East. Life is good right now at Marquette, isn't it?
Yeah, this team, I know we talked about at the beginning of the year. I didn't know how much of a step back they were going to take without, 2 NBA guys and Tyler Kolek and Oso Ighodaro. And they're doing a little bit different than what I anticipated. I expected this team would be a little bit deeper, but they're really relying on their starters. I'm sure we'll talk about that coming up. But yeah, it's been they've been a lot better than I anticipated this season for sure.
No, that's awesome. So let's go back one game to the DePaul matchup, which happened down in the Chicago area, and it was a nail biter. That was a nail biter kind of a night because Wisconsin was the same way against Ohio State, and then you've got overtime with Marquette in DePaul. Marquette coming away in overtime to get the victory to remain undefeated in the Big East. David Joplin goes for 30. The strange one for me is that Cam Jones goes for 18, and yet it was kind of an off night for Cam Jones.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Cam's Big East numbers, he's kind of, he had rough shooting time in Big East play. I think he's only 20% on three-pointers just in conference games only. When he started super on fire this season, and he was super efficient in all his shooting over the whole non-conference season. And, that has a lot to do with, facing coaches that are very familiar with you. And I think there's more physical play once you get into, conference play and conference opponents. So he's dealing with that. But, yeah, he was, I think, 1 for 7 on threes against he's I'm looking at the box score right now, 1 for 10 against DePaul. But he made one that the one he made was super huge. I mean, they were down. Yeah. Marquette was down 4 in the final minute of regulation, and he hit that one with about 45 seconds left that got them within 1. So he didn't shoot well, but the one he made it count.
What was it the other night against DePaul? I mean, my knowledge is cursory compared to the Shaka Smarts and the Greg Guards of the world, but that zone defense of DePaul just really seemed to put a wrench in Marquette's offensive scheme and really just seemed to kind of, make life rough, I guess, because it forced them to take perimeter shots. And as we were just talking about, the Cam Joneses of the world were just struggling. It was just one of those nights.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you look at it. Shaka said after the game, Marquette likes to either take threes or shots right at the rim. But, in that zone defense, DePaul just had its big man just camp right at the rim. So it was kind of deterring shots around there. So Marquette was really just kind of passing it around the perimeter, and then they would have to heap up a shot. It was interesting. I mean, Marquette's really good at taking care of the ball this year. They're like one of the best, lowest turnover teams in the nation. So the zone didn't cause them, they were still getting shots up, but they just weren't making them. That this Marquette team isn't really that good of a shooting team. They're about average. I think they're about 32% on threes for the year. So it's a good strategy. I'm sure, and Shaka mentioned this after the game, Marquette's going to see a lot of zone from a lot of teams the rest of the way. So they're going to have to figure out ways and little tweaks that they can, get more people flashing to the middle of the zone. This is what Shaka talked about after the game, a little more player movement, ball movement to kind of get to those empty spaces that zone defense has. So they're going to see a lot of it. So they're going to get a lot of practice against it.
We're talking with Ben Steele of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel as Marquette gets ready to take on Xavier today at 1 o'clock at Fiserv Forum. Ben, before we get into a little bit more on Marquette, just real quick with DePaul, in watching that game the other day, DePaul has gotten themselves to a point where I'm feeling like they're one win or maybe a back-to-back win in the Big East away from kind of getting some confidence and maybe being the DePaul of old. Like, there have been some seasons where DePaul has been the doormat really of the Big East. But this season, it just seems different. Like, they need that one win, really, I think, to get some confidence. And then DePaul, I don't think they'll be a formidable opponent, even if we get to the Big East tournament. But they get that win, they get that confidence. That could be a team on the rise for next year or the year after.
Yeah, I mean, it's their first year under Chris Holtmann, is a really good, really well-respected college basketball coach, and they had to throw, typical of having a first-year head coach, they had to throw a roster together, haphazardly, and got a lot of transfers. I mean, I think their whole roster is new, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they returned anybody from last year's roster, nobody of significance at least. But yeah, I mean, you look at their schedule, especially in the conference play, they had 3 overtime games, overtime losses to Providence, Seton Hall, and then, the Marquette game last week or a couple days ago. So they're right there in these games. They just haven't learned yet how to put it together. And you look at their style of play, they put up a lot of 3-pointers. They got some good shooters. As Marquette knows, they have guys that can get really hot, like the guy Rivera hit 4 threes in the final minute of overtime to kind of put the final scare into overtime. So, you put up all those threes, those high variance games, they're going to have a game where they're hot shooting. And, yeah, they're going to take somebody down. They beat Georgetown last night. That was their first conference game in almost exactly 2 years, one day shy of 2 years.
Wow.
Georgetown was missing a couple players, but still it counts.
Yes.
DePaul, I'm sure, will take any victory that they can get. But yeah, they're gonna pick off some teams. And Shaka said that after the game too. He's like, it was almost us, but they're gonna take down some teams for sure.
No,
that's a great format that we know from the last decade or so.
Sure, and that's a great way of saying it. As Shaka said, picking teams off. As we make our way towards March Madness here on the latter half of the regular season. So how reliant has Marquette been on its starters to get to 6-0 in the Big East? We were talking about that as we started our conversation. The starters, again, with all the, I don't want to say all the question marks. There were some question marks coming into the season when you lose 2 huge components of your offense to graduation in the NBA. But the starters for Marquette this season have really elevated their game. Obviously, we get a lot of talk about Cam Jones potentially being a National Player of the Year, but he's been also surrounded by the Stevie Mitchells of the world that have played some really incredible basketball.
Yeah, I think this is probably, if you had one big concern about Marquette, and this came up against DePaul, is that, they're super reliant. Marquette is super reliant on its starters. No bench player scored in that game in DePaul, and that's an overtime game, and Cam Jones is playing over 40 minutes. So that's got to be a concern for you, especially like how much they rely on him and how much usage he has with the ball in his hands. And we talked about his efficiency falling off. I think a lot of that has to do with like the heavy minutes that he's playing, and that's a concern. The Marquette's bench, I think the starters played like all overtime in the last 5 or 6 minutes against DePaul, and then same thing against Georgetown the game before that. If you looked early in the season, I thought that this would be a little deeper team, the non-conference. Like I think the last time we talked after the loss to Iowa State, the freshman Royce Parham and Demarius Owens, they flashed really well in that game. I thought they would become a bigger factor in the rotation as we got in the conference play. But Shaka's talked about this a couple of times, like the physicality and the defense that he requires of his players. It just isn't there with like these freshmen and sophomores that they have coming off the bench. So he's just relying on these 5 starters, and you got to be concerned because I mean, they're going to need some depth if they're going to get through this long grind of the season. And we're at the halfway point of the season, and if Shaka's not happy with them now, I don't know how he's ever going to get them up to speed. But they're going to gotta find a way somehow to get some more depth on this team.
Okay, because you kind of went into where my next question was going to go. The fact that there have been many a times, Ben, that we've spoken and we've talked about once we get to the Big East tournament or after the grind of the Big East tournament, getting into the big dance, that the Marquette Golden Eagles have, quite frankly, just simply looked tired, that they just look worn out from a tough regular season, a tough conference tournament, and now you're expected to immediately flip another switch in order to get yourself through March Madness. What is your level of concern with what you were just speaking of? Because he's not, that being Shaka Smart, going deep into his bench. And so you're getting these starters who are playing an incredible number of minutes. And then once you get to March, you know, where are the legs going to be, so to speak, when you get to the big dance and have to have those type of one and done pressure set situations?
Yeah, it's definitely a big concern, and I talked about the concern with Cam Jones, and you know, Sean Jones was expected to be the big backup guard for this team. He tore his ACL just about a year ago. I had some other knee damage besides the ACL, and he was practicing, and his rehab was going really well, and it looked like there was a chance that he could come back. And then, if they got Sean Jones back, then Cam Jones could play a little off the ball with him, and that would probably ease the concerns. But right around the new year, it got to the tipping point where it wasn't really worth it to bring him back, just for half a season, so Sean Jones could have full 2 years of eligibility. He says everyone says he looks good in practice, but he's just not quite there defensively. So they just didn't want to risk it. So I think that is just like a big loss for them not to have, a junior guard who's been through this before, just having that piece off the bench, and that, all the freshmen and sophomores, that's all they have as reserves. And these guys haven't been in the NCAA tournament before, or a couple of those guys have played like a couple minutes here and there last year, but nothing of, any significant experience. That's probably the biggest concern once we get to the postseason. In addition to, the wear and tear of going through the whole season on the starters, just the guys off the bench just haven't been in the pressure cooker of the Big East tournament or the NCAA tournament. How are they going to react when they get thrown into a game because they're going to need these guys to play, and how are they going to react? That's probably one of the biggest concerns I have once we get to the postseason.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I get the fact that, you want to sit somebody who's not 100% and give them those extra couple of years of eligibility, and you don't want to rush somebody back and have a re-injury in which then even puts your program, in essence, your program back even further. All right, let's get to today's game here, Ben. One question before we have to get to a break, as the Golden Eagles will take on Xavier here, 1:00, Fiserv Forum. It's strange to me already that this is the second time around that we're getting Xavier. It seems a little early in the season, but that's how the scheduling gods laid things out. The Marquette Golden Eagles are almost double-digit favorites going into today's game, but I have a little apprehension because it is the second time, and now teams have a feeling, in essence, of what it is you do, even outside of what you watch on tape. We've played one another. We know what the matchups are. So what are a couple of keys going into today's game?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, these teams played right before Christmas in Cincinnati. Marquette looked like it was going to cruise to a victory in the second half, and then Xavier kind of had got the crowd back into it, had one of those furious home rallies and Marquette kind of pulled it out at the end, got a couple breaks down the stretch. But the biggest thing with today's game is Zach Fremantle for Xavier didn't play in that first matchup. He had suffered a leg injury a couple games before. I think there was some concern that he was going to be out for the season, but he kind of came back a couple games ago that got, faster than most people realized he was going to be back. And Zach Fremantle's the kind of player that can give Marquette trouble. He's a big guy. He's been in college. It seems like 15 years at this point. But he's big, he's strong, he's experienced. He's a front court guy that can, give. Front court's another concern for Marquette. We talked about the depth. Front court, a big, strong front court player can give this Marquette team trouble, and that's what Zach Fremantle is. So that's probably the biggest thing I'm going to be watching today is how he affects this matchup and how it'll be a little different than the first time around. And Xavier's got some good guards that can get hot, that can hit threes. This is going to be a little tougher. This is going to be a sneaky matchup, and Xavier's kind of fighting for their NCAA tournament resume. There's not a lot of quality wins to be had in the Big East this season, but Marquette's like the big catch for every team to play. That beating Marquette, especially in a road game at Marquette's home, that can boost any resume. So they're going to get everybody's tough shot every time around because this is like a big resume booster if you can beat this Marquette team.
Absolutely. Ben, we appreciate you. Can't thank you enough, as always, for jumping on, joining us, and sharing some knowledge as Marquette gets ready to play Xavier today, 1 o'clock down at the Fiserv Forum. Enjoy the game. Hey, stay warm. Have a good weekend, will you?
All right, I appreciate it. You too.
All right, that's Ben Steele from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. We got to get to a break. After the break, we're going to effort the money train, who, as I said, is in the Northwoods in deep retreat, getting ready to make the championship pick. Pipe bomb.
This could get interesting.
This could get interesting. We hopefully will have the money train after the break. As we go to break, as we have been celebrating the life of Bob Uecker, this call comes from back in the early 80s. It's goodbye, Detroit. Hello, New York.
The arm is back. Here he comes. 1-2. Swing and a miss. Goodbye, Detroit. Hello, New York. Hey, rolling fingers. What a job he is being mobbed by his teammates as the Brewers have come from behind today to beat Detroit by a score of 2-1. Oh, what a victory today for this Milwaukee Brewer Ball Club. And Milwaukee will face New York for the American League Eastern Division Championship.
They say seeing is believing, and when you see what's inside at American Place Casino, you better believe you're gonna love it. Because when it comes to amazing gaming, we're a real game changer with the most exciting of table games like blackjack, craps, and roulette, the newest slots, a sportsbook, restaurants, bars, and more. So if you're ready for excitement, we'll see you soon. American Place Casino. Change the game.
Must be 21 years of age or older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537.
A happy place comes in many colors. One that leaves you feeling refreshed. Something that gets you all fired up. Or gives you the space to chill. Whatever your color, bring happiness home with CertaPro Painters and make your happy place your home. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Get started today at CertaPro.com. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
In almost every case, when Advent has solved a breathing triangle problem, it is a one and done. Because we don't want you to be a lifelong patient. We want you to be our next success story.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Shop can't miss deals going on now during Pro Savings Days at Lowe's. For a limited time, get a free adjustable stand when you buy a DeWalt 12-inch miter saw. That's a $229 value. Plus, save $680 on a Midea 4-piece kitchen appliance suite. Now just $17.96. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 1/13 through 1/24. Cannot be combined with additional discounts while supplies last. See store or Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in the zone. Auto.
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone. Auto.
And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
An elegant, intimate experience in fine dining is right here at Ho-Chunk Gaming, Wisconsin Dells. The Copper Oak Steakhouse and Lounge features choice cuts of Angus beef and fresh seafood prepared to perfection over an open flame grill, complemented by an extensive selection of fine wines and signature martinis. A passion for detail in exceptional dining. The Copper Oak Steakhouse and Lounge at Ho-Chunk Gaming, Wisconsin Dells. Open Thursday through Sunday. Call and make your reservations today.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn ever since I turned 40. I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think you could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy.
Text RIP to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text RIP to 42424. That's RIP to 42424. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. A great alternative to a mobile phone for your kids. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get 60% off. Free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
Drew and KB here. Join us at 3 o'clock. It's colder than ever. And just like we do every Monday, it's game balls and kicks to the balls. So get them ready. Join us at 3. Drew and KB.
Welcome back in Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank, presented by Sewer Ninjas right here on 97.3. The Game, the Money Train, as always, being brought to you by the Red Zone. The Red Zone located on Howell and College near the airport. Enjoy a draft and watch the game on one of their many TVs located throughout. That's the Red Zone near the airport on Howell and College. So Pipe Bomb is continually efforting to get a hold of the Money Train, who, as I said, went deep into the North Woods in order to make sure that he had the serenity and the peace, Pipe Bomb, of what the North Woods offers us in order to make the pick that comes for the championship game on Monday.
Trying to find a Zen place.
Yes.
Okay.
Trying to find his Zen. Now, I was given the envelope. I wish we had an envelope, right? We could rip it open. I was given the envelope last night just in case, as we all know, no matter how much our beloved mobile carriers tout they can cover everywhere in the United States, it's not always the case. And I think this is one of them. I think wherever he is up north, there's just no coverage in the pine trees. But
I'm surprised we've got the budget for an envelope.
I was given the envelope. I feel like Karnak here since we've been doing the Euchre stuff, right? The Money Train is going with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
All right.
Taking the Ohio State Buckeyes. So he has had an incredibly successful year. We'll get him back on next week. I'm trying to convince him to do basketball.
Okay.
So we can keep this segment rolling throughout the year. We'll see if he'll join us with that. But at least we'll have him on one more time to talk about how the regular season and the postseason went as far as his picks went, because they've been incredibly successful. I think what we'll do, Pipe Bomb, is move headlines into the next hour, because I know we're pushing up on the top of the hour and I don't want to necessarily cram it in. But I will say one thing that we will be discussing, should headlines fall into our lap, we might even have to scrap it. Who knows, is the fact that we're looking at now a new ruling with Title IX and NIL and the way things are going to go with this house settlement that we've been talking about, that I think people are going to need to keep an eye on, because it could once again flip college sports on its head. So it's something to, again, just address, keep an eye on. And if we have time in the second hour, we'll go ahead and discuss ourselves. We're at the top of the hour. We've got to wrap this one up. In the second hour, we'll talk some Badger basketball. We may or may not get to headlines. We'll see how that plays out. We'll give you the D3 top 25. And then at 9:30, Bart Lundy, the head coach at UWM, is set to join us. Boy, even the computers know it's time to get to the top of the hour. All right, as we go to the top of the hour, another great call from the late Bob Uecker. This is Dale Swaim walking it off, making it 12 in a row.
Gantner, there he goes. The pitch, a swing and a fly ball, right field and deep. Get up, and get out of here. Gone for Swaim, and they've done it again. 12 in a row on a 2-run blast by Swaim to win it. Oh, my goodness. Holy cow, do you believe it?
How would you like to win $1,000?
I would enjoy that and appreciate it very much.
It's grand in your hand. Your chance to win $1,000 just by listening. Weekdays when you hear the keyword, enter it at our website, 973thegame.com.
KB here. Miss Sue and I have worked with Brewer Contracting on 3 projects in our home: our patio, our basement, and now a bathroom remodel. And at the end of every project, we always say the same thing. Why didn't we do this earlier? Well, for us, it came down to 2 things: value and trust. We've been burned before, but Brewer Contracting earned our trust and hit our budget numbers. Our patio has become our summertime family room. The basement is my music studio, and the new bathroom is amazing. Inside of 2 weeks, Brewer Contracting transformed it from a builder-grade plastic junk bathroom into a glorious travertine tile body cleansing retreat. Most importantly, it was done well within our budget, so we know we will get a return on our investment when we sell our home. Make 2025 the year you invest in your home. Just take a look around the house, pick out a project that's been on your back burner for years, and get it started at brewercontracting.com. That's brewercontracting.com. And tell them KB sent you.
KB, let's talk about your neck of the woods, up north.
The North. Supper clubs, campfires, and North Brandy from our friends at Central Standard.
Central Standard's North Brandy is aged for over 2 years in fire-kissed oak barrels, then finished in bourbon barrels, which mellows the brandy to a sweet and unrivaled smoothness.
Perfectly balanced and aged.
North Brandy from Central Standard Craft Distillery. Locally made brandy from the state that consumes the most brandy.
Available at retailers and supper clubs all over Wisconsin.
When you're making a decision to hire an exterior remodeling company, character, integrity, and the feeling that the people you're about to hire are truly eager to show you how good they are should stand at the top of your list.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semper Fi.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Hello, America. This is LeVar Arrington. As a gun owner, I understand the importance of being prepared. But it's crucial to recognize that according to law enforcement statistics, 99% of all altercations do not require lethal force. Introducing Byrna, the leader in less lethal self-defense. And you know, I'm all about defense. Byrna provides formidable stopping power without the complexities and potential legal consequences of a homicide. It's about having the right tools for the right situation, ensuring you can protect yourself and your family effectively and responsibly. I personally own several Byrna launchers. Byrna launchers are legal in all 50 states with no background checks, no permits, and no waiting period. You can have one shipped straight to your door, providing peace of mind when you need it most. Every Byrna launcher is hand assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana by a proud American company. Visit Byrna.com/LeVar and get 10% discount off your purchase. That's Byrna, BYRNA.com/LeVar. Byrna, where safety meets responsibility and preparation meets peace of mind.
Sarah Spain for iHeart Women's Sports, presented by Capital One. In WNBA news, the Indiana Fever are getting a dedicated $78 million sports performance center in downtown Indy. Pacers Sports and Entertainment, the company behind the Fever, released plans to break ground on the center in August. The three-story, 108,000-square-foot complex connected to Gainbridge Fieldhouse by a sky bridge will open its doors before the 2027 season. For more women's sports stories, subscribe to Good Game with Sarah Spain on iHeart Podcasts.
Capital One is a founding partner of iHeart Women's Sports Network. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Every day live from Milwaukee and heard on the iHeart app by fans everywhere. This is WRNW-FM Milwaukee, 97.3 The Gay.
Welcome to the Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank and presented by Sewer Ninjas. Now, here's your host, Don Wachillis, and the professor, Dan Underberg.
Welcome back in Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank, presented by Sewer Ninjas. This hour being brought to you by Kleenex. How's that pipe bomb? You'd have to understand what the discussion was prior to coming back on the air to get that one. But this show, as always, being brought to you by Sewer Ninjas, dedicated to solving your home sewer issues with the latest no-dig sewer repair technology to minimize cost and disruption. They can repair your sewer lateral line with minimal intrusion, saving you thousands. When you need help, turn to the drain and sewer experts for Milwaukee and the surrounding communities. You can find out more at sewerninjas.com. Our thanks to Waterstone Bank as well. Established in 1921, offering a full suite of personal and business banking products. Come for the outstanding customer service. Stay for everything else. Bank easier at Waterstone Bank. See everything they have to offer at WSBonline.com. Our thanks in hour number one, again, to Ben Steele for joining us to talk about that Marquette-Xavier matchup. As we were saying earlier, coming up at around 9:25, 9:30, Bart Lundy, the head coach for our UWM Panthers, will be joining us as they get a nice win last night, getting ready to hit the floor again tomorrow afternoon. Also, another team getting ready to hit the floor today is our Wisconsin Badgers. And our Wisconsin Badgers, much like what we saw with Marquette the other night, had a big lead against Ohio State, watched it dwindle, hung on. We grasped onto our chairs as we watched that game, and they finally came away with the victory again over an Ohio State team that hasn't been the greatest this season. And you thought once they got into double-digit leads, pipe bomb, you're like, okay, this is kind of what we anticipated. But credit the Buckeyes, which I hate to do, in that they kept chipping away, they kept fighting. And again, we talk about this all the time, and you can't necessarily see it, as we love to say, but you watch the momentum drift from the Badgers side of the floor to the Buckeye side of the floor. And fortunately, the Badgers were just, quite frankly, resilient enough to come away with what turned out to be a 70-68 win at the Kohl Center.
Yeah, it goes back to what we've talked about a lot so far this season, where if the Badgers are hitting their threes, they're going to play really well.
Right.
In this game, they shot 22.5% from three-point range. That ain't good enough. And the score shows it. You know, they sat there and were able to eke out a 2-point lead on a team that they should have blown out by double digits. So, you know, that's one of the problems. The one thing I did like about this game was the way that they shared the scoring. You know, a lot of guys in double figures. The ball moved around. It wasn't one dude saving your bacon because you weren't able to hit from three.
Right.
It was, a team effort, and a lot of these guys got involved there. And then the fact that they're able to sit there, shoot 22.5% from three, but then they shoot 89% from the free throw line.
Yes.
That helps make it up. And, if you can keep that free throw percentage, especially on the days you're not banging them in from long range, you have a chance to win some of these games where you're struggling in the second half.
And that's crazy because we'll again talk with Bart Lundy, the head coach for the Panthers, at the bottom half of this hour. And when you hear the stat line from last night with how the Panthers came away, in this case, with a convincing victory, but did it in a fashion that is contradictory to everything that you just talked about with the Wisconsin Badgers. I agree with you. I love the way they've been able to now distribute the ball a little bit, that they've got multiple guys averaging in double figures. You had 3 guys the other night. And I guess, again, it all begins and ends really this season with Steven Krall. Steven Krall, after the game in which Greg Gard kind of publicly called him out. Like, how does a 7-foot guy not get a rebound in a game? Right. And went through the whole scenario there. Since that moment, that seemingly was, outside looking in, the kick in the butt Steven Krall needed to get him going again. And he has been a much different player since that public chastising by Greg Gard. And the other night, again, finishing with 14 points. And we look at always the points, right? There's little idiosyncrasies that we don't necessarily see in the stat sheet that a coach like a Bart Lundy, a Greg Gard, a Shaka Smart, they dig deeper into the stats. They're looking for various things, or when they're watching it on video. But you're seeing Krall now able to do some things in a low post pipe bomb that is setting others up for success. So again, we always go right to what the points were, at the end of a game to see how well or evaluate how well someone did. So Krall, yeah, we're in double digits, but he's doing other things on the floor that are allowing his teammates to score as well, or things on the defensive side, which are hampering the Ohio States, the Rutgers of the world from doing what they want to do.
Well, yeah. And it's like you said, it's the stats that aren't shown. If you can set good picks to free somebody up, especially if your shot is not falling. Krall was an 0 from 3-point range against Ohio State there. But, if you're able to sit there, pitch in on defense, and do what you can, the other things when your shot isn't falling to help the team, then, yes, you look at the points and it's like, well, was it a good game? But yeah, absolutely it was.
But 7 boards led the team in rebounds, which is what you want your big guy down in the post to do. The other guy, I mean, we can talk about John Tanji, who I think has turned the corner, so to speak. I think he started out great, and then the line sort of flattened a little bit because I think teams now had video of him and they were able to scheme some things. But I think Tanji now, along with the coaching staff, have made the next chess move and have freed him up a little bit more. So he's playing very well. He had 17 the other night. John Blackwell continues. Blackwell talked about being the guy coming into this season, and he is, but he's the guy within the system. And that's what I love about Wisconsin basketball. It's what I love about Marquette. It's what I love about Panther basketball. You can be the guy, but it's the guy within the system. And you can still contribute, like Blackwell having 15 the other night. Wasn't the leading scorer, but he was an important element. The one that I think kind of goes under the radar, especially outside of the state of Wisconsin, is Kamari McGee. Kamari McGee, quite honestly, is the poster child for Wisconsin basketball. Here's a kid, and I say that with all due respect because I'm old and everybody younger than me is a kid, goes from Green Bay to Madison. And I know Brian Butch and Matt LePay were talking about it the other day on the postgame show against Minnesota when they got the victory at the Kohl Center. His rise, so to speak, both statistically, I think within the team as a leader. I mean, he is, again, the poster child of Wisconsin basketball. If you go and stay and allow that coaching staff to mold you and give you the tools to grow, Kamari McGee, if you just from a statistical standpoint, look at where he is now compared to where he was when he entered the Wisconsin program, It's unbelievable. And now his ability to hit from beyond the arc, which wasn't there 2 years ago, which is now there consistently. I mean, here again is a case for someone staying and developing and now reaping the rewards because he's getting a ton of minutes and he's making the most of those minutes when he's on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is what was so great about college sports for so long is that you could sit there and see guys and the growth from freshman year to sophomore to junior to senior. And you could sit there, oh, well, he didn't have that shot back, you know, as a freshman. He didn't have, you know, now it's obviously a lot tougher with everybody chasing the money around and transferring 800 times. So, you know, it's nice to see it. But you made a great point about being the guy within the system. And it teaches unselfish basketball. It's not this ISO one-on-one crap, which is, you know, plaguing the NBA and ruining that product. It's team basketball. It's the way it's supposed to be played.
And not only that, the idea of team, and I've seen it more this season than maybe in the last couple. When you watch the Wisconsin bench, if you're at the Kohl Center watching the game and a Kamari McGee, since we were just talking about him, comes off the floor, and the way the team reacts when he gets to the bench. You watch some guys, they go to the bench, you know, the guys on the bench just stick their hand out. You get a quick high five. They make their way down. They go sit down. It's different. And you can visually see it with this Wisconsin team. You could visually see it when they played Minnesota and Greg Gard had the ability to empty the bench a little bit towards the end, and watching what I'll call the veterans, the upperclassmen, the guys who are getting a ton of minutes because the John Blackwells of the world aren't upperclassmen yet, but watching their reaction when these guys were getting minutes and what they were doing and rooting them on. And even in some cases, I noticed a little bit of coaching, you know, like they're back on defense and you could see, you know, a Stephen Crawl or whoever it was kind of like pointing like, no, you need to be over here. You got to get over here. There's a cohesiveness with this Wisconsin team that I think is special. And one thing that I listened to as I had Dave Gasper on, who you hear on our beloved station, but doing the post game in Madison. And they were talking with Gard. He was playing an excerpt from an interview with Matt LePay and Brian Butch after the game, but Gard kind of, I don't know if he let it out, spill it out, however you want to phrase it, but talked about when they go out in NIL, the transfer portal and everything else, they have a test, like a psychological test they give these guys to see if mentally, in essence, they fit, emotionally, if they fit with what they're trying to do. And when I heard that, and I think about the John Tangis of the world who just outwardly and seemingly fit seamlessly into what the Badgers wanted to do, I was like, oh, so that's the secret sauce, right? That's not Thousand Island dressing on the Big Mac. That's the secret sauce that you're utilizing, because it does. The guys that they've brought in haven't been these outliers, these give me the ball, these, you know what I mean? Even last year, like an AJ Storr, who probably in some games took way too many shots, but still it seemed like it fit. There seems to be a camaraderie within that Badger program that is unmatched by a lot of programs throughout college basketball.
Yeah, and those things, you know, I was always so 50-50 on them, and like the psychological test.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously they can be helpful. They give you a baseline of, you know, the person's personality, kind of what they value, if, you know, if they're going to be coachable and pulling for the team in the front instead of the name on the back of the jersey. I just hope that they don't bring psychological testing to this job, because I have a feeling I would fail miserably. So as long as they don't start doing that to me, I'm all good.
You and me both. We'll skip that. Yeah, I've got a cold. I don't think I should be coming in today. I know you're giving out that test. It'd be like Costanza and Seinfeld where he's taking the IQ test and he hands it through the window to have his girlfriend take it because she's claiming she has a much higher IQ. That would be us walking down the street like, Elizabeth, can you take this for me and then just slip it back and I'll throw it in an envelope and send it back over. Here comes the strange part of the season for me in this what is now an expanded Big Ten, the fact that we're on a West Coast trip. I'm used to hearing West Coast trips with the Brewers, maybe with the Packers, got to go to the West Coast for sure with the Bucks. But now in the Big Ten, we have West Coast trips. So we're getting ready today to sit down and watch the Badgers take on USC. Tuesday, they take on UCLA. And they're going at a time, obviously, that is very strained. I think had the Badgers been able to go at a different point of the season maybe, or even a different year, they'll get back there. But this crew now is heading into the midst of all of the mess that's happening in California with regards to the wildfires. So I don't know if the experience is going to be quite what it would have been had not this natural disaster been undertaken and continually, plaguing the West Coast there. But now we get a game against a top-ranked team. No, they're still big. No, USC's not a top-ranked team. I'm just, no. I was trying to sell it a little bit, but I'm not going to sell that. That would be blasphemy. But again, it's USC. It's a name. USC, UCLA are names. They are brands. And so regardless of where they are in the season, regardless of where they are in a one-loss record, where they are in the standings, it's still a brand. And so if you can beat those teams, you come home 2-0 after what will be a different road trip. I'll say it that way. It'll be what the Badgers need to continue now moving forward, because the schedule doesn't get any easier within the Big Ten and it gets more physical. I'm going to be interested to see how they do on the West Coast. And again, how the USCs and the UCLAs of the world adjust to Big Ten play.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of think that the fact that the Badgers are going now with all the devastation and everything that's going on out there kind of helps put the focus more on the game. Because unless you're from there, there's certain states like California that just have a certain cliche. And especially when you're 18, 20, 22, something like that, you could kind of get lost in the extracurriculars.
Yeah.
It's kind of easy to not put game focus at the top of your brain there. And so, I think it's good. And we'll see. I do expect the Badgers to play really well against directional California. And, hopefully, they can sit there and out physical these guys because, I will never root for these new Big Ten, quote unquote, Big Ten teams. They're always going to be the newbies and not, the OGs.
Right.
And so, obviously, I think that, especially, but then I thought the same thing in football, and Oregon came in and kicked everybody's butt. So we'll see what happens, but I think the Badgers are going to play well.
Let me throw this question at you. I heard Matt LePay say this, and he was a guest on one of the shows here during the week, and I don't know if it was this week or last, but somebody had brought up to him about, Big Ten. I'll just use football as my analogy because I think we can say the same thing about basketball. The Big Ten's got a physical style of play, and maybe the old Pac-12, as we'll call it, was more finesse or whatever the case may be. And I think Matt was making the point that now, because we go from West Coast to East Coast with what we have in the Big Ten, or what we now call the Big Ten, there isn't necessarily a style of play. And I get what he was saying, but yet I wanted to respectfully disagree, because I think there is a difference, maybe not within the Big Ten as opposed to the SEC or whatever, but I think regionally. I think in the Midwest, it's a more physical, low post, we're going to rough you up, the old Piston bad boy kind of thing style. I do think the West Coast is a little bit more finesse, and I do think the East Coast is a little bit more run and gun. And I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I do think there are styles that might not necessarily, Jeff, be reminiscent of a conference anymore, but I think they're reminiscent now of a region.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. But I also think that this is why the expansion to the Big 18 is important, because for years it was so physical in the Big 10. Now you bring in these West Coast. We brought in East Coast before. Now we bring in the West Coast. And so I think it's important for them to learn, and play against these guys often with the different styles, but then getting more referees that maybe aren't used to calling typical Big 10 basketball for the last 100 years will help the Big 10 teams come to tournament.
Thank you.
Because in the NCAA tournament, when the whistle becomes a little bit more pronounced,
right?
So many big teams just got in trouble because they would get in foul trouble so early. Now you're going deeper on your bench than you wanted to. You got your main guys sitting down for extended minutes, and the Big 10 would get in trouble and not perform to the best of their ability. Maybe now bringing in these new teams makes them adjust more often during the regular season, and so it'll be easier to do that come tournament time.
That's a terrific point, because how many times – there you go. Go ahead. Pat yourself on the back. That a boy. How many times on this show, once we got to the tournament, have we talked about the inability or ability to adjust now to what the refs are going to be like? Because suddenly you're on the floor, you're playing an opening round matchup, and you've got a full SEC crew, which calls it slightly different than what you'll find necessarily in the Big 10 or the Big East. So again, I think the point that you raised is a very, very valid one. All right, so Wisconsin taking on USC today. It's a 2:00 tip. As always, we'll have it right here for you on 97.3 The Game. Brian Butch, Matt LePay will be courtside on the West Coast to have that call for you. As we go to break, once again, we've been playing excerpts all day long of the late Bob Uecker. This, for me, is one of my favorites. This is Robin Yount getting his 3,000th hit.
Back in against Mesa, who is working from the windup. The 0-1 pitch. Swings, and there it is! A base hit into right center. He's done it. 3,000 for Robin.
The recent wildfires that ravaged Los Angeles now account for one of the largest disasters in the history of our country. Now, iHeartRadio is bringing you an historic fundraising event.
The Fire Aid Benefit Concert.
Live in Los Angeles.
Donate today at fireaidla.org.
Join us January 30th.
Listen live to the Hit Nation station on the free iHeartRadio app, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern.
And show your support for the people in need in Los Angeles.
Woo! Sorry about that. This is Armin Saryan, and I just had a slice of Screamin' Sicilian. It's the premium frozen pizza that's so screamin' good. Even just thinking about it, I sometimes, woo! Each Screamin' Sicilian starts with a super buttery crust that was individually rolled. Then, it's topped with a secret recipe tomato sauce, mounds of whole milk mozzarella, and the most toppings you've ever seen on a pizza. Seriously, one bite and you'll understand what all the screaming is about. Woo! Jackpot! Sounds like Brian Butch just found out. Find Screamin' Sicilian premium frozen pizza in the freezer at your favorite store. Screamin' Sicilian, it's so screamin' good.
MKG Transport moves materials, parts, pieces, assemblies, moved locally same day, next day, and if needed, keep processes moving, moved back same or next day. Our drive, manufacturing movement, mkgtransport.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone,
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone,
And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out. Oh, down in the rinse straight. Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
The Fox 6 weather experts are presented by AdventKnows.com.
Decreasing clouds this Saturday with temperatures falling will mainly be in the lower 20s by the afternoon, but feeling like the single digits. Temperatures drop tonight to near zero with a cold weather advisory issued Sunday through Monday of next week. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Lisa Michaels.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. A great alternative to a mobile phone for your kids. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get 60% off, free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
The new iHeart app.
Yeah, I've been playing around with it.
Love my radio, love my presets.
Thank you.
This is really easy to use.
Join the millions already on the new and improved iHeartRadio app and set your first preset. Plus, discover the new live radio dial, scan, lyrics, podcasts, playlists, and your favorite artist's radio.
Open the app and everything's right there. I love it.
The new and improved iHeartRadio app. It's everything you love about your car radio in the palm of your hand.
Go get it.
iHeartRadio. 97.3 The Game.
Playing around, make one false move, I take it down. Get back, you don't know me like that. Get back, you don't know me like that. I saw, I hit him right dead in the jaw.
Welcome back in. It's the Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank, presented by Sewer Ninjas, right here on 97.3 The Game. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll talk with the head coach of the UWM Panthers, Bart Lundy, slated to join us. Want to let you know that this segment is being brought to you by Eric Ulvach,
Biggie,
and his staff at MyPro Realty ERA Real Estate, your go-to team whenever you need local experts. Give them a call for any of your real estate needs at 414-467-1030. Once again, that's 414-467-1030. Let's jump real quick through the top 25 in Division III basketball, as once again, the state of Wisconsin is well represented. On the women's side, UW Oshkosh is sitting right now at number 4, UW Whitewater sitting at 15, and UW Stout at number 21. On the men's side, the number 1 team in the country is Jeff Gard and UW Platteville, as they have a 13-1 record now on the season. Last week's number 1 is this week's number 1 as well. Wisconsin Lutheran, also 13-1. They sit at number 8. The University of Wisconsin La Crosse sitting at number 13. UW Stevens Point at 18. As far as the top 25 goes, got a few mentions like UW Oshkosh in the honorable mention category. So once again, the WIAC, the NACC, and other conferences within the state of Wisconsin representing themselves very well nationally. And again, Jeff, it's one of the reasons why we love to talk to our D3 coaches and cover D3 basketball as well, because, again, the amount of talent in this state, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find it anywhere else, really. I mean, maybe Texas, California, maybe just by sheer volume, because I think they have a few more schools. But just as far as competitiveness goes, I'll take our beloved state over anybody else as far as Division III goes.
Yeah, I will too. And the players that have come up through here, they just seem tougher. They're mentally tougher. Maybe that's obviously there's a massive bias.
That's okay.
I'm not going to say that anybody from California is tougher than us. You know what I mean? So, but it is great. And if you're not paying attention to D3 basketball, you're missing out.
You are missing out. I had MSOE the other night taking on Concordia University of Chicago. MSOE put 111 on the board.
Yeah.
And that's up against a team that put 90, I think it was 91 on the board against them. I mean, it was old school LA Laker, 80s Showtime, up and down the floor, good basketball, and encourage anybody, whether it's MSOE, whether it's Concordia, Wisconsin, Whitewater, you name it. Make sure you get out there and check out some of the Division III basketball that's taken place, because I think you'll be wildly entertained. I think we can go to the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line and bring in our coach, the head coach at UWM, the Panthers. It's Bart Lundy. Coach, good morning. How are you, sir?
Don, I'm doing well. How are you?
We're
Haven't seen you
doing
in a few hours.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Our paths have not crossed in quite some time, so that's why we had to get on the phone and call you right away and see how things are going. Hey, a nice win last night against a good Youngstown State team, that gave you some fits last year, but last night, with the help of Faison Fields, you guys really played some good basketball, with the exception of the 3-point line and the free throw line, which were areas of maybe concern as you get to the gym today.
Yeah, I'd say that's right. We lost 2 overtime games to Youngstown a year ago, and their big boy Dines was a freshman last year, and he leads the country in blocks this year. And last year he blocked 11 shots in one game against us. They've got a good team. They were leading the league up until this past week. They were in first place, and so to get them and to get them without making a three or shooting over 50% from the free throw line really was a good effort by our guys. I mean, we dominated on the glass and we really guarded. So some of our systems held, Don.
So yes, some of the systems did hold. Coach, I think 2 things that I'll let you elaborate on. One was what you just talked about, the fact that you did extremely well in the paint, scoring 62 points within that range. And then the work of Faison Fields, who, coming off of the injury, now in his 3rd game back, he talked a little bit about it after the game in the post-game press conference, starting to get his wind. He looked every bit of what I think we all anticipated we would see from him on the floor. It took a little bit again because of the injury, but he was special last night.
Yeah, he really was. And the way that Youngstown guards you, they basically take away any ability to pass on the perimeter or move the ball. So we played right in the middle of the floor with our point guard and our bigs, and they were able to be effective against the size of Youngstown. So it's great to have Faison back. He's such a spirit. I'm sure you saw that in the interview. He's such a team guy, and to have him back and to have him performing at the level he did, really, I'm surprised that he's back to that level so soon, because he was out for a pretty long time, and to be away from it for 6 weeks really says a lot about him and how he conditioned and kept himself in good shape, even without being able to catch or dribble or shoot a basketball during that time.
Coach, how special is it from your perspective? We were talking about Kamari McGee in the last segment with the Badgers and watching his evolution and his growth within that system. And then I look at the Faison Fields and the KPs of the world and the Eric Pratts. Watching that game last night, when they're on the floor, you can just witness, firsthand how they've developed, how they've grown within your system. That says a lot, not only for you and your staff as far as you guys in growing these young men within that system, but it says a lot for them too in how they allow themselves to be coached.
Yeah, it really does. And, we're fortunate that we've been able to retain a good bit of our roster each year. That's the hardest thing in college sports right now. And it does come down to character being probably the number one thing you've got to look for in recruits going forward with in this age of college athletics. And KP didn't have a great game last night. He's been banged up all week, and I think it affected his confidence a little bit, but he's going to give the Milwaukee Panthers everything he's got, because he has so much pride in putting that jersey on. And that's how you win championships. It's not always can you get the very best player, although I love our talent level. It's how committed are they? Will they sacrifice for each other? And that's hard. It's hard. It was hard years ago, and it's much harder today with all the enticements that these kids have.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine what life is like right now, trying to coach, recruit, talk to your guys, build those relationships in this ever-changing world of college athletics. Coach, before we get into a couple of other things here, JaMychal Stillwell has been nothing short of spectacular all season long. If someone were just to look at the stat sheet like morons like us, and we go right to, the points, what the total points were for the game, and he had 10, he was in double figures. But yet you could tell last night that Youngstown State, their mission was to try to take JaMychal out of the game, so to speak, and create havoc. And yet he found ways to fight through it, even after getting into some early foul trouble. You just, at least for me, I saw a level of composure out of that young man that I didn't know if I would have expected to see it, not being around him as frequently as you are. But I thought, even though JaMychal only had 10 points, I thought the way he enacted himself, both on and off the bench, getting in foul trouble, I thought said a lot for him.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of JaMychal. He gets that every night. Everybody tries to stop him, and he is a force to be reckoned with. But he came in, and when we were recruiting him, he had a little bit of a reputation as a hothead, and could fly off the handle. And I've been around him for and started recruiting him, before this time last year. So a year now, being pretty close with him, and I've seen none of that. And last night, I think I mentioned in the press conference, a lot of players, he gets two pretty quick ones in the half, and it's his third one pretty quickly in the second half. A lot of players would have lost focus and let that affect their game. He didn't. People take every shot at him, and he just keeps coming. And that type of toughness and relentlessness, that's why he's leading the country in rebounding.
Yeah, I there was a level of maturity there, and that's an old guy speaking that you could just see. You could just see it, emanating from him, and how he handled and conducted himself in a game like that. Coach, you're finally at home here for a couple of games. You had a lengthy road trip during the holiday break, so to speak. What did you learn about your team? What did your team learn about themselves when you're on the road and you're really, you're forced in essence to be together 24/7 while you made that journey?
Yeah, man, we grew. We had to face a lot of adversity. The Oakland game and the main game that we lost, both of those games, our guys felt like we got a bad whistle. Everything is against you, and we've had tough road games. We've gone some really tough places to play this year in the non-conference as well. But I think they grew from all that. And from my seat, that's what this journey is about. So you're not going to win every game, but like today, we've only got 1 day prep between last night's game and a 2:00 game tomorrow afternoon. But we're going to go back, and before we go on to Robert Morris, we're going to watch a little bit of film from last night, just clips and things that they can see and learn from, and I think it's that growth and some of the spots where you hit adversity that if you can learn from that, the margins are so small in winning and losing that you continue to reduce your losing margins and increase your winning margins, and by the end you hope that you're the best team in the league, and that's what this journey is all about.
Absolutely. We're talking with head coach Bart Lundy of the UWM Panthers after the win last night against Youngstown State. Say that 5 times fast. Getting ready to take on Robert Morris tomorrow afternoon at 2:00. So Robert Morris is what I like to call in the midst of their Cheesehead tour, because they played UW Green Bay yesterday. Now we'll take on the Panthers on Sunday. What are you expecting from this Robert Morris team as they come into Panther Arena tomorrow afternoon at 2:00?
Yeah, they had a really successful non-conference season. They're 4-4 right now in the league. They're talented. They're tough. They're older. Youngstown and Robert Morris, for lack of a better term. I don't mean this disparagingly, but they're kind of the NIL teams in our league. They have the big pots of NIL money, so they have older teams that, guys that have been very successful at other schools that they brought into their programs. So we're going to have our work cut out for us. We do have a better size advantage than we did last night in Youngstown, so that's obviously bodes in our favor. But they made 12 threes last night. They went on a 28-0 run against Green Bay when Green Bay was up on them. So they're a good team, and they're fighting for their lives in these conference standings just like we are. So it'll be a battle. It'll be fun.
Coach, what was the discussion yesterday? I got a quick question here before we let you roll, and we always thank you for your time. What was the discussion yesterday in the timeouts? Because you could just see everybody suddenly get tight when they got to the free throw line. Did you talk about it, or did you just say, in my terminology, ignore it and we'll address it tomorrow at practice?
Yeah, I didn't address it in the timeouts at all. And we generally don't. The only thing I really tell them is, hey, you got to be tough enough to step up there and knock it down. So a lot of that's just self-imposed pressure, and we've got guys that have struggled of late, and those were the guys that were being fouled a little bit. So I don't think it's a team-wide deal. But Jamichael would have more than 10 points if he sticks those free throws in. Now I've got a few clips for him, little things that he's dipping his head back a little bit on his free throw, which is causing, when your head goes back on your jump shot, you shoot flat because your arm goes straight instead of going, lifting the ball. So there's some little technical things, but we'll get back in the gym this afternoon at 1:00, and promise you that free throw shooting is on the practice plan.
Coach has given us technical terms as far as shooting goes. The only thing I knew, Coach, in my basketball career was you had to stretch your leg out a little bit. Otherwise, your feet go numb when you're sitting on the bench for as long as I did. Coach, good luck tomorrow.
Maybe he got in foul trouble. His legs were numb. Maybe that was it.
You got to tell him, you got to stretch that leg out so you get a little more flexibility in the knees when it's finally time to stand up. Coach, have a great game tomorrow. Thank you, as always, for your time. We do appreciate it. Best wishes.
Thanks for having me. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right, you as well. That's head coach Bart Lundy of the UWM Panthers joining us on the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line. Chris Zill sent this to us, Jeff, and Chris is the SID over at UWM. He does a marvelous job. Chris is the guy from the old Ed Sullivan show who would put the plates on the poles and have to spin them and run around. That's Chris right there. But here's what he sent me. So last night, again, Coach mentioned it, 0 made threes. It was the 7th time in program history, the first since 2014, that a Panther team did not hit a three-point basket. All other games besides last night were losses by an average of over 16 points a game.
Yeah.
That's incredible to me that the Panthers come away with a 79-64 win, don't hit a three, and not only do they not hit a three, they shoot below 50% from the free throw line. That's a credit to me, to Bart Lundy and his staff, to alter potentially what they were going to do offensively to make life happen, because you obviously, everyone in the audience sat there and witnessed the fact that the old pucker got tight when they got to the free throw line. Boy, I'll tell you that.
Well, and that's why these coaches sit there and you have to prepare for all situations. I don't think that Bart Lundy had that in his game plan. All right, boys, we're going to go out there. We're going to miss all our threes. We're going to shoot under 50 from the line, and let's see what we can do. Go team.
Team, right?
So, a huge credit to him and his entire coaching staff. And a huge credit to the players as well.
Absolutely, for persevering in a situation like that. Yeah, page 2 of the offensive plan, right? Listen, tomorrow, 2:00 at Panther Arena, UWM taking on Robert Morris. It's a whiteout. Now, I'm going to get on my soapbox here before we have a euchre clip and we get to a break. decent attendance last night, considering the Bucks were right next door at Fiserv Forum taking on Toronto. About 1,900 and change. I counted unofficially out. I'm not counting the band. Bless the band for being there.
Uh-huh.
I counted 15 students. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What was it? Too cold last night? It was like 42 degrees. What? I don't understand what it takes to get you guys, that being UWM students, to get off your phones, get off your computers, get off your PlayStations, and go down to Panther Arena and watch this team. It's a good ball club. This is a special ball club. This is a club that could go deep into not only Horizon League tournament, and if they do, could find themselves dancing in March, which would mean the way things are progressing right now, we would have 3 Division I schools in the midst of March Madness. I don't know what we have to do to get you inspired to get off your rear ends and get down there and have some fun, because I'm telling you, the 15 students that were there, they were having a ball. They were having a ball. The people that were there were having fun. It's a good atmosphere. It's a great place to watch basketball. I just don't know what we have to do to get the student body off their rear ends and down to Panther Arena. And tomorrow afternoon, a 2:00 game, give me an excuse. I like, what is your excuse? I'm throwing it out there, Jeff. I know you don't have the answer, because if we had the answers, we would share it and get people down there. It's like, you just go down and have some fun. Support your fellow students and support your school, for goodness sake.
Well, I have the answer, Don.
Uh-oh. Go ahead.
You got to sit there and make every night ladies' night, where, all the young female students get in free, because where the girls are, the guys will go.
Okay.
And so if you want to boost attendance, female tickets, I don't even know if this is legal.
It's not anymore, but go ahead.
Female tickets are free. And if you're a man, come on in, $5, whatever. And then you'll get people to show up. But I don't know what they have to do. This team is so good, and so underappreciated for what they bring to the city.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's get to a break. As we've been all show long, we've been playing some clips of Bob Uecker in mourning of his passing. I do want to say that these clips are courtesy of Major League Baseball, and I'm sure Major League Baseball, it's courtesy of Good Karma Brands and WTMJ, where they got them initially. So our thanks to those two entities for these clips as we kind of memorialize and relive our memories from Bob Uecker. Bob had some good calls when it came to Christian Yelich. And here's an example of a Christian Yelich home run as we go to break.
Dominic Leone, all set to work. Here it is. Yelich sends one to right center and deep. Get up! Get up! Get out of here and gone for Yelich. He has tied the game with a booming home run into right center field. No doubt about that one. And the Brewers have tied the game with a Christian Yelich home run. It's his first of the year, and a no doubt about that one.
They say seeing is believing, and when you see what's inside at American Place Casino, you better believe you're gonna love it. Because when it comes to amazing gaming, we're a real game changer with the most exciting of table games like blackjack, craps, and roulette, the newest slots, a sportsbook, restaurants,
lubricants are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Lowe's knows how to help make your Super Bowl 59 party a touchdown. Let us help you prep your home to host with top brands like Charbroil, Blackstone, and LG, so you can be the MVP of game day. Plus, use the Lowe's app to find what you need for a seamless shopping run. Or huddle up with our Lowe's Red Vest associates to help make all your game time hosting decisions.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think you could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy.
Text RIP to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text RIP to 42424. That's RIP to 42424.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Business owners can now keep in touch with up to 200 staff members at one time. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off and free shipping.
Coming up Monday, Mike Heller Show, noon to 3 on the game. We'll look ahead of the College Football National Championship game. We'll visit with Matt LePay. We'll look back at a full weekend of NFL divisional round playoffs and whatever the heck else is going on. Monday, the Mike Heller Show goes noon to 3 on the game.
You know what? I won't shovel the funk. I won't shovel the funk. I won't shovel the funk. I feel like shovel the funk. I got to shovel the funk. You want to shovel the funk? Do you want to shovel the funk? Then go ahead. Go.
One last time, welcome in Journey House College Sports Show, powered by Waterstone Bank, presented by Sewer Ninjas right here on 97.3 The Game. Shovel the Funk being brought to you by the 414 Sports Podcast. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you find your podcasts. Jeff, I start with you. Again, the professor is off this week. He'll be back next week, so there's only the two of us to hand out some shovels. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, my shovel goes college football playoffs. Let's hope that this championship game is great on Monday. Hopefully everybody enjoys it. I just want, like you said, there's really nobody to root for, so just give me a good game.
Paul Feinbaum gets mine because, you know,
he's a moron.
There were frauds, and he's a hot taker, and yeah, we're up against top of the hour, which is actually good because I think we'd have to censor the rest of my comments and handing out this shovel. So with that, my thanks, as always, to Ben Steele, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, as Marquette gets ready to take on Xavier, 1 o'clock over at Fiserv Forum. Our thanks as well to head coach Bart Lundy of the UWM Panthers, who will be taking on with his team Robert Morris tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock at Panther Arena. Get out there and support him. For the Polish Pipe Bomb, Jeff Orlowski, I'm Don Wachillis. Thank you, as always, for joining us here. We're back in 6 and 22.
Hey, B here. Miss Sue and I have worked with Brewer Contracting on 3 projects in her home: our patio, our basement, and now a bathroom remodel. And at the end of every project, we always say,